I've got a very special treat for you today. We've got a brand new collab that just dropped. 11 builders have come together to bring to life some prototype Hero Factory villains. Yeah, these are based off some leaked images of early concepts for the breakout wave of Hero Factory. How exciting! So let's dive in and take a look at these amazing creations. Up first, we have a menacing villain. This is Terrorquaker, and this is built by Geikie Mox. I'm quite a big fan of these hands. The large shape and size of them, it calls to mind imagery of heavy machinery that you often see working in mines or in construction. Hey, perhaps that's the story behind this guy. They were working as a mining robot, but after being unfairly demoted, they turned to a life of crime, and they became a villain. You know, there's just something about the construction and mining aesthetic that somehow works so well on Hero Factory villains. I don't know what it is, but I like it. I quite like these pops of purple that we see here on the torso. Using some of these 4x4 rounded purple plates, it's a good way to round off the torso, and a good way to shape it as well. Very unique. And also check out this jaw design on the face. It's using the helmet piece that we see on some of the 2.0 heroes. In yellow specifically, it came on Evo. Isn't that clever? I like how it looks a little bit like he's got an underbite, but at the same time too, it just rounds off the face perfectly. This rocks. This whole mock rocks. The aesthetic, the brilliant silhouette of it, perfect. The next bad guy we've got is Plague Reaper, and this is by BREAKOUT. Now, before we talk about this, I know what you're thinking. You're like, Ben, you never showed a comparison image between the last mock and the prototype set that it's based off of. Where was that? Well, I unfortunately can't show those images. It's not really the kind of thing I can share on this channel, unfortunately. But thankfully, with the power of the internet, you can go look it up yourself. It's not that hard to find, thankfully. Still, hey, let's just marvel at the wonderful look of these creations and not worry too much about how they tie back to the original source material. So Plague Reaper. It seems like this design would eventually become Toxic Reaper, which makes sense given the similarity of their names. But yeah, I really like that BREAKOUT has taken a lot of effort to make sure that they look very different from Toxic Reaper. If anything, I feel like this looks like it has a more aquatic context. It almost looks vaguely frog-like, which maybe doesn't make sense, but hear me out. The large talons on the feet and the fingers. To me, it gives off the sense that they have webbing connecting them, like you would see on a frog. Even just the general hunch and shape of the character, it does look very frog-like. But you know, a frog with a lot more spikes and a lot more villainous attributes. And hey, maybe that's the origins of this character. They live in a swamp, and that's how they got their poisonous plague powers, some sort of acidic mist that mutated them. I do quite like this face design, by the way, taking Makuta Gorast's mask and flipping it upside down, then crafting some eyes using these trans-orange claw elements. We see these in a set like Skull Scorpio from G2. Yeah, these pieces form a delightful little head design. I love it. The back is also quite clever, using some of these Dreams macaroni pieces in trans green. This makes it look like that big canister on the back has poison pumping into his body through this tubing. It's clever. Over to Care Creations, and they have built Dr. Voltenmiz. Oh, this is great. This feels like a character fresh out of a Saturday morning cartoon. And you know, Hero Factory is such a wonderful, wacky world where this kind of thing, it fits in perfectly. I'm glad Care Creations really leaned into this aesthetic. Now, this head design. It looks a bit like a giant brain that's just bulging out. How is this built? Well, it's making use of heaps of these pink berry pieces. Yes, spamming those like this is the perfect way to recreate a brain. Who would have thought? Also, check out the eyebrow design here. Using a Harry Potter wand for this? Genius. What a good part use. Yeah, this is certainly one of the more expressive characters within the collab. I think it's fantastic. He's even got a little ray gun as well. He's the best. Over to Brute Force by Benjamin Anderson. So yeah, with some of these prototype dudes, you can certainly see how they evolved into final sets, because this one eventually obviously became Split Face, since they look so similar. But again, Ben has put in a lot of effort to make sure that they look very different. You like the facial expression, for example, the big toothy grin that they've got, and the determined expression in their eyes. It's a stark difference between Split Face's more angry and dry expression. And this mock is also working out. With his dumbbells in his hands and some equipment behind him, it's a hilarious setting for a villain and one that just makes sense. I like too that this justifies some of the lime highlights that we see on the gunmetal side of the character. This makes it look like the veins are popping out as he's working out more and more. Very appropriate. But the rest of the mock, it has some incredible shaping that really does make it look like he's got some sculpted muscles on a lean and fit body. The body of a bodybuilder. My favorite bit has to be the use of these macaroni pipe pieces for the abs. In fact, he's got a 10-pack. He's certainly been working out. Peter Shaker now takes on Headhunter. This is actually early concept art for Core Hunter. You can probably see some similarities, especially within the face area. But Peter also strayed quite far from that original source material in the prototype imagery. He's added his own personal twist, changing the color scheme to dark red, which is quite nice. But it also looks like he's taken some inspiration from Predator. The net around the torso, the teeth on the face, they look extremely similar. And oi, I think that's a sick idea. A villain that's the ultimate hunter. I just want to see a story of this dude hunting down a whole team of heroes deep within the jungle. That would be dope. The weapon he's got here is also quite a fun twist on the character's name. He's literally hunting the heads of heroes and putting them on the end of his staff. Pretty graphic, but kinda cool. Also, this blaster is amazing. Draping a cloak over it to give it a bit of camouflage. It's really good. It's really, really good. Up next is Speeder Demon by Bionic Supreme. So yeah, with a lot of these prototypes, they look very different to the actual final sets, but this one's very similar. Still, this is based off some of that earlier imagery and ideation for Speeder Demon, which did have some subtle differences. Taking a look at Speeder Demon without his bike, it looks good. My favorite detail has to be these stickered elements on the torso. The gritty texture on these parts I think works really well for Speeder Demon. You know, I've always seen him as this very out of control dude who likes to ride his bike and get up to all sorts of trouble. The vibe of these stickers, I think it fits that idea quite well. These stickered pieces, they actually come on the Power Miners set, Thunder Driller. It's good to see them taken right off of this and put onto something else. Very nice. The upgraded bike looks wonderful. I love this little hint of azure on the wheels, as well as these trans-purple discs too. They've got that nice electricity pattern to them. They give you the sense that this bike has been upgraded and it's got all sorts of illegal enhancements. It's fun. This is just a really solid interpretation of Speeder Demon. I love it. Now over to Kill Switch. This is by Sir Iggs. Yeah, another one that very obviously evolved into its final set. You can see that this guy became Voltix. So this creation uses a ton of tubing. I think there's a lot of beauty in the chaos of this. I mean, take a look at the waist. There's magenta wires, blue wires, silver ones, lime ones. It's chaotic, it's messy, but it works. Sometimes when you use this many colors, you walk a very dangerous line of it being too all over the place, too busy. But not here. Plus it just makes sense that an electricity villain would have this many wires. You might also notice some of these purple pieces around the neck of the mock. They curve in a rather interesting way. These are actually purple pirate hats. You get a bunch of them in the LEGO Botanicals set that you're seeing right here. They're on this flower. So yeah, if you're like me and you have this set, then you know you get a lot of these pieces within it. And with the huge supply I have of them now, I don't really know what I'm going to do with them. But seeing Iggs playing around with them, it's given me some nice inspiration. It's always good to see builders taking advantage of the large surplus of pieces that you can sometimes get in very specific LEGO sets. Nice thinking. Over to Cinderblock and their interpretation of Breakdown. This wacky looking face is great. I like how one pair of eyes is green, and then on the other side, it's just using binocular pieces. Yeah, which makes it look a little bit like the robotic eyes on one side have broken down. It's clever. You've got this open mouth as well. It's just such an expressive face that has so much character. It kind of looks like they're falling apart, going a little crazy. I like it. I also like all 4 of these arms. They're all different from one another, and they've got some silver weapon pieces on them as well. You might remember these from some of the System Bionicle playsets. They're the weapons that you see on each of the minifigures in these sets. It's good to see these getting a bit of love. You don't see too many people playing around with these parts. Nice work. Up next we have DV Mox and their take on prototype Thornrax. I appreciate how much it's focusing on the shape of the stinger tail. In fact, every part of the anatomy of this wasp character is perfection. Actually, looking at it, I'm getting some Mega Beedrill vibes. I like that. But take a look at this head. Great idea to use Turaga Vakama's mask. It's the one that came on this set. Yeah, you feed some antenna through the eyes and then the very edge of that mask, using it to shape the kind of nose or the edge of the face of the character. It's quite creative. Something else that I didn't expect to look this good is the inclusion of some sand blue. The original set uses medium azure, which was such a good inclusion, and I would have thought that I wouldn't have liked that being removed. But replacing it with sand blue? How unexpectedly beautiful. Great thinking. Rick Bionicle Mox has built this next one. They're called Depth Charger. It's a cool name. I really enjoy this head design. I never would have expected Fenrac's face to fit a shark context this well, but it does. And when you slap a fin on the top, well, you really got something. This is another delightfully over-the-top villain. The really exaggerated proportions, the beautifully silly and outrageous appearance, it works. Plus, I think I just like land shark characters. They're fun. They let you do all sorts of crazy stuff like having tubes linking up to their gills that feed into a container on the back which presumably has some water inside of it. That's how they can breathe on land. Isn't that fun? One more great detail is the use of Spinax's mask on the torso. Good idea to use that as armor. If you're not familiar with this guy, he comes in the wonderful set Maxilos and Spinax. Yeah dude, this is great. And finally, we finish off with the Mighty Warlord. This was built by Mr. R03. If I'm not mistaken, this eventually became Black Phantom. But the fact that this one is a bit more of like a Minotaur? That's hardcore. Look at these giant hooves. They're using some of these shin armor pieces that come in the Star Wars Ultra Build sets. Very nice. It's kind of the perfect way of shaping these. We also see more of these pieces on the upper torso and on the arms. I really like the silhouette of this torso. Very evil coded. But the best part about this mock has to be the little minion that comes with him. He's so cute. Look at him with his little blaster and his giant devil horns. I never really thought of the idea of giving your villains minions like this, but hey, when they look this good, you gotta do it. And this shot here of him eating this Hero Factory armor? Hilarious. What a great combination of characters. And that's all the time we have for today. How good was this Hero Factory collab? It's so good seeing people go all out during HF Feb. So if you want to see more from these builders, check the links in the description below. Otherwise, thank you for watching guys, happy building, and bye for now.